You think you know pasta, you think you've mastered the al dente, but then you meet spaghettini, the thin, delicate wire of the pasta world, and suddenly every mistake you've ever made in the kitchen comes back to haunt you. Because spaghettini is the ultimate test of a pasta brand, a true quality check that separates the artisans from the accountants. While you've been confidently tossing your thicker spaghetti, the spaghettini industry has been hiding its biggest sins in plain sight, betting that you won't notice the difference between a delicate, resilient strand and a mushy, starchy failure. They are betting that the thinness will mask the cheap ingredients and the industrial shortcuts. But the truth is, the thinner the pasta, the more critical the quality of the wheat and the process becomes. We're not just talking about a slight difference in cooking time. We're talking about a structural integrity issue that determines whether your light, elegant sauce clings to the noodle or pools sadly at the bottom of the bowl. So, let's talk about the 6 spaghettini brands that are either stealing your money and destroying your dinner or are actually worth the space in your cart. We're exposing the enriched flour, the high-speed drying, and, the corporate shell games that turn a potentially perfect meal into a tragedy. Smash that subscribe button because we're about to save you from some seriously depressing spaghettini disasters. We begin with the robbers, the brands that are robbing you blind. And coming in at number 6 is the generic store brand Spaghettini at roughly $1 per pound. This is the budget option that, promises speed but delivers only regret. The ingredient list is the familiar red flag enriched macaroni product, which is kind of code for, well, we took the high-protein durum wheat semolina out and replaced it with a softer, cheaper wheat flour that is milled to death, then added back synthetic vitamins just to meet legal requirements. The problem is really magnified with spaghettini because the strand is so thin, it has almost no margin for error. The weak gluten structure of the enriched flour means that the starch leaches out almost instantly upon hitting the boiling water, turning your pot into a cloudy, milky mess. The cooking time is often listed as 5 to 6 minutes. But honestly, the reality is that the window between raw and overcooked is about 30 seconds. There is no al dente, only hard or mushy. The mouthfeel is like chewing on wet paper. It just collapses instantly, leaving a chalky, starchy residue that, overpowers any delicate sauce you pair it with. The manufacturers know you're buying this for a quick meal, and honestly, they're betting on your hunger to overlook the fact that you're buying a structural failure. The bottom line is, this spaghettini is the culinary equivalent of a wet tissue. It just falls apart under the slightest pressure. Moving on to number 5, we find Barilla Spaghettini, the US-made version. That ubiquitous blue box is the default for so many people, and it trades entirely on a powerful brand name and Italian heritage that, honestly, its American-made product no longer honors. While the ingredients list does mention durum wheat semolina, the deception really lies in the process. This pasta is extruded through Teflon dies, not the traditional bronze dies, and, this is the corporate shortcut that's particularly devastating for spaghettini. Teflon is fast and cheap, creating a perfectly smooth, shiny surface, and on a thin strand like spaghettini, this smoothness means zero sauce adhesion. The noodle is so slick that your light, elegant clam sauce or aglio e olio simply slides off, pooling at the bottom of the plate in a disappointing puddle. Chef Isabella Rossi, speaking on the difference, once said, "Barilla is like a beautiful photograph of a meal. It looks right, but it has no soul, no texture, no grip." And with spaghettini, this lack of grip is a fatal flaw. You are left with a mouthful of bland, slick noodle followed by a spoonful of sauce, a complete failure of integration. At $1.79 to $2.50 per pound, you are paying a premium for brand recognition, not quality. And honestly, they have convinced millions of Americans that this smooth, sauce-repelling noodle is what good pasta should be, a triumph of marketing over mouthfeel. Our 4th brand that is robbing you blind is Ronzoni Spaghettini, a brand that was once a source of pride, but has become a ghost trading on memories after multiple corporate acquisitions. Check the ingredients. Enriched macaroni product, wheat flour. Notice what's missing? The consistent quality of durum wheat semolina. They switched to cheaper blends and enriched flour to cut costs, and this is the classic corporate move that is amplified by the thinness of the spaghettini. The texture is soft and, honestly, a little bit mushy, even when you try to cook it al dente. The taste? It's aggressively bland, so neutral that, well, it's honestly kind of forgettable. At about $1.30 to $1.80 per pound, it's sitting at mid-tier pricing, but, it's really low-tier quality. The real industry secret here is the high-heat, rapid-dry process. Traditional, high-quality spaghettini is dried slowly, sometimes for more than 24 hours at low temperatures. That slow drying preserves the wheat's flavor and makes sure the starch molecules set just right. But Ronzoni, like a lot of mass-market brands, uses industrial heat to dry their pasta in, honestly, just a fraction of the time. This rapid dry process basically pre-cooks the pasta, destroying those subtle wheat flavors and guaranteeing a softer, less resilient final product that, just falls apart in the pot. Reviews show a clear decline with complaints like, "It falls apart in the pot," and "They changed the recipe." And honestly, this is exactly what happens when a pasta company is bought by a food conglomerate that decides a few hours of drying time and a few cents on the flour blend are more important than the integrity of the final product. They're really just banking on your nostalgia to overcome the taste. Now we move to the winners, the brands that are worth the money, and next up is Muller Spaghettini. A brand that has, honestly, surprisingly maintained its integrity despite corporate ownership by Treehouse Foods since 1999. Unlike Ronzoni, Muller's keeps its original semolina-based recipe, making it, in my opinion, the best American-made spaghettini you can buy. The ingredients list leads with enriched semolina, actual durum wheat semolina as the primary ingredient. Cook it for 5 to 6 minutes, and the texture is noticeably better. It's firm, holds its shape well, and there's just minimal mushiness. The taste has a mild, weedy flavor with a bit of nuttiness, and at 8 grams of protein per serving, it's notably higher than the cheaper brands, thanks to that actual semolina. At $1.40 to $1.90 per pound, it really delivers the best value in the mid-price range. Reddit's cooking community actually calls it the best American-made pasta, and honestly, it's surprisingly good for the price. Muller's kind of succeeds by being overlooked. Treehouse Foods hasn't optimized it to death because, well, changing the recipe just isn't worth the hassle. It's like the reliable Honda Civic of pasta, not exactly sexy, but it gets the job done without any drama. And let's be real, with spaghettini, drama is the last thing you want. If this is already changing your grocery list, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't end up wasting money on our next pick. Our number 2 winner is Di Cecco Spaghettini, imported straight from Italy. Founded way back in 1886, Di Cecco still remains family-controlled and has never compromised its recipe or process. At $2.50 to $3.50 per pound, this is the pasta that really makes you understand what you've been missing. So, when you pull the pasta from the blue and yellow package and notice the difference, it has this matte, slightly dusty appearance from bronze die extrusion. If you run your thumb across an uncooked strand, you can actually feel the texture, like very fine sandpaper. This roughness is the key to sauce adhesion, especially on a thin noodle. The ingredient list is simple. 100% durum wheat semolina. That's it. Cook it for 5 to 6 minutes and experience what actual al dente means. Substantial bite, real resistance before your teeth break through, and a springy texture that maintains its integrity. The rough bronze die surface grabs sauce like Velcro. At $2.50 to $3.50 per pound, you're paying 31 to 44 cents per serving. Yeah, it costs more upfront, but the eating experience is dramatically better. Chef Stephen Jerome says, Di Cecco is the standout when it comes to store-bought pasta. The bronze die process gives it that perfect texture to hold on to sauce, and with spaghettini, that texture is non-negotiable. Di Cecco positions itself perfectly as affordable premium, and honestly, they let food snobs and Italian chefs do their marketing for free. This is what pasta tastes like when Italians make it for Italians. The difference between this and Barilla is like comparing fresh squeezed orange juice to Tang. And if you're finding this ranking useful, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps us test more products you actually care about. And finally, number 1, the undisputed champion, Rusticella d'Abruzzo Spaghettini. At $4.50 to $6 per pound, that's 4 to 6 times the generic store brand's price. This is what you buy when you want to understand what spaghettini can be when made without compromise. This is, honestly, the Ferrari of the thin pasta world. So, the package arrives wrapped in paper and the uncooked pasta looks almost hand-hewn, with this visible roughness. The bronze-dyed texture is, honestly, dramatic. It feels kinda like a cat's tongue, covered in these microscopic hooks. The ingredient list is, well, a testament to purity, just organic durum wheat semolina and water. That's it. Cook it for exactly 5 minutes and, yeah, you get to experience pasta as it was meant to be. Bread-like density, substantial resistance when you bite down, and then a satisfying give. You might find yourself eating slower, just savoring that texture. The intensely rough surface doesn't just hold sauce, it really integrates with it. If you make a simple aglio e olio, the olive oil actually penetrates into the pasta's porous texture, and every single strand carries its full share of flavor. Chef Matt Harden explains, rusticella highlights the grain itself. A nutty terroir-driven flavor that makes the pasta a star, not just a vessel. The slow drying takes over 50 hours at low temperatures instead of just 4 hours at industrial heat. And this, preserves the wheat flavor and creates a genuinely special texture. What makes this particularly honest is acknowledging the truth. At this price, you're paying for artisan production methods. Is it 4 to 6 times better than the generic store brand? No, it's maybe 50 to 60% better. But you're paying for small batch quality, organic ingredients, and traditional slow drying. Smart customers know this is for simple preparations where the spaghettini is the star, definitely not for heavy ragu where the sauce dominates. This is what Italian grandmothers mean when they say pasta should have character. So, here's what just happened. We took 6 boxes of spaghettini and exposed every lie the industry has been telling you. Italian names hiding American factories, Teflon shortcuts dressed up as tradition, enriched flour pretending semolina never existed. From the generic store brand at $1 per pound to Rusticella d'Abruzzo at $6 per pound, that's the difference between eating starch-shaped failure and finally understanding what all the Italian obsession is about. Tight budget? Muller's gives you real quality under $2 per pound. Want authentic Italian? De Secco is your starting line. Hit subscribe if this changed how you'll shop for spaghettini, and drop a comment telling us which brand you think we ranked wrong or which one we should test next. Your dinner deserves better than lies in a blue box.